In today's news, we have seen interviews and warnings from Ripple's CEO Brad Garlinghouse, all of which are related to the impending Black Swan event, which is the collapse of USDT Tether. This is the third or fourth time that we have recently experienced these events. It is another evidence that Ripple's new upcoming stablecoin, the RLUSD, will flip USDT, and it may happen much sooner than you think. The sources that are presented in this video provide you with additional confirmation. As we now have confirmation of a Ripple initial public offering IPO in the horizon, as we can hear in this interview confirmation from Brad Garlinghouse himself on CNBC. Then you may believe, as we also now have such confirmation. Give it your whole attention. In the offices of the Securities and Exchange Commission, I am not exactly well liked, as you could expect. The president of the New York Stock Exchange was in that chair yesterday, and she stated that she welcomed applications from the cryptocurrency ecosystem, initial public offering markets, and the heating up of the market. It is my opinion that Lynn Martin is a progressive example of where we ought to be moving forward. Gary Gensler is not located in that location. As a result, the SEC is required to endorse an S1. I do not believe that it would be prudent for Ripple to venture into the public market in the United States at this time. Given that Coinbase is a publicly traded firm in the United States, I believe that decision is one that the corporation regrets. Ripple and XR are going to benefit tremendously from this piece of news. An initial public offering, also known as an IPO, would of course make it possible for Ripple to generate a significant amount of more capital, which could then be used toward the additional development of RippleNet and their technology. Ripple would also become a more respectable and credible corporation as a result of this, which might result in an increase in the number of partnerships and investors. Consequently, this would have the ability to raise the demand for XRP as well as its adoption, which would result in an increase in its price. Does it make sense to you? The price of XRP will rise once Ripple goes public, and an initial public offering IPO in a country other than the United States is unavoidable. Given that rules are being implemented all over the world, it is highly probable that this initial public offering IPO will take place sooner than anticipated. This is especially true now that Ripple is preparing to launch their very own stablecoin. We can see that Brad Garland has reaffirmed for what is now the third or fourth time that Tether is not untouchable and that they will lose to the RLF, USD. This is something that we can see again in the same interview that was conducted on CNBC. Pay close attention. The second point is that I believe there will be some shifting in market share in the near future. As of right now, Tether is the dominant cryptocurrency. One can argue either for or against the government of the United States of America. Tether, which is a cryptocurrency that represents the United States dollar, has been the subject of certain worries from the United States government, which have been voiced in a manner that is somewhat explicit. In my opinion, the United States government is taking the stance that, well, if you represent a dollar from the United States, you are subject to regulation by the United States. Currently, that is not the situation. In addition, I believe that there might be some changes in the way that market share is distributed. A Tether USDT BlackSW is on its way, and we can hear further in this clip from an institutionally important person named Brian E. Nelson, who is the Undersecretary for Terrorism and Financial Intelligence at the United States Treasury. He says that Tether is a problem and that stablecoins will exist, but they will have to be ones that are backed by their respective governments. This is similar to how Ripple's new stablecoin is 100% backed by the United States government's deposits, bonds, and cash equivalents, the U.S. government. There is a clear and present danger that providers of virtual asset services are not meeting their compliance duties completely. I believe that the second item that we have been concentrating on is the dangers that are associated with stablecoins. This is especially true in light of the fact that we have witnessed the risks associated with stablecoins become increasingly appealing to terrorists and other bad actors. Is there a way to collaborate with Congress in order to obtain an authority so that although this is really significant information, it is not the only piece of evidence that I have for you in this video. By watching this video clip from David Adefalto, who works for the Federal Reserve in the United States, we can also observe that the Fed has the ability to delegate settlement to a third party such as Ripple. Pay close attention. Why would you put your faith in the Federal Reserve to handle the accounting? My argument is that you shouldn't anticipate the Federal Reserve to steal your money in any way. In the event that the Federal Reserve is able to print as much money as it desires, it will not monkey around with the accounting system. The Federal Reserve is the sole entity responsible for managing this massive spreadsheet, which you may refer to as the blockchain. In addition, it is very inexpensive, even more affordable than Bitcoin, provided that you are willing to hand over the duty to a third party. Nevertheless, there are some drawbacks to all of that, of course. For example, there are certain people who, you might actually You might not want the Federal Reserve to be responsible for processing the payments. Let's say, for example, that the Federal Reserve is likely imposing Know Your Customer KYC limitations on certain purchases. There is a possibility that they will not process some purchases that you might want to make. As a result, it was at that moment that I made the statement, well, we could if we wanted to take the idea one step further. Having said that, I am not claiming that this will ever take place. Rather, I am merely imagining it. With a Fed coin, the Federal Reserve would essentially just create these Bitcoin-like things, and they would enforce a par exchange rate with the United States dollar. For example, you might envision that FedWire would not be used for all transactions, but rather with FedCoin. The volatility of the exchange rate would be eliminated as a result. On the other hand, they may turn over the responsibility of clearing these payments to a third party, a system similar to Ripple or even Bitcoin. What I mean is that we may give the miners the job of processing these electronic payments made with FedCoin. We have this interview here which ties the relationship between custody, tokenization, and stablecoins, all of which are things that Ripple is primarily focusing on. This interview brings to light the reasons why Ripple's new stablecoin will undoubtedly push the price of XRP to the moon. Pay close attention to this. In conclusion, if you look 5 years into the future, I believe that interest rates will be lower, and I hope that this will be the case. However, I also believe that there will be a lot of the same things that you are seeing happening in the asset management industry. In addition to the fact that we have been discussing payments quite a bit, there is a great deal of activity taking place in the asset management industry, including BlackRock, Franklin Templeton, Fidelity, and other companies. In light of this, I believe that there will be a separation between the deal component and the payments component in the future. I believe that my view of the future is that if you are the chief financial officer of a huge firm that is involved in digital currencies and you have excess cash, you will retain that capital in something that is a tokenized money market fund or something similar, and you will earn your yield from that point on. And then, when you want to make a payment, you will transform that tokenized money market fund into tokenized money, which is what a stablecoin is, and then you will transfer the stablecoin. This is how you would make the payment. According to my point of view, a stablecoin is an instrument for yield that is not ideal. It is important to remember that tokenized money market funds are not perfect payment vehicles. Rather, they should be used for the purpose for which they were designed. Also, the stablecoins will not be monetized based on the yield on the reserve. Rather, they will be monetized based on the fees associated with transactions. Earlier this year, the European Union (EU) began accepting instant payments. The regulations governing stablecoins, which are MiCA, are not too far behind. The fact that neither of the regulations will allow Bitcoin to be used has already been established. Not only will they not accept USDT, but they will also not support Ethereum. None of them will receive financing from MiCA. On the other hand, Michael is a supporter of Ripple, and they are also behind XRP. To put it simply, the games have officially started. It is either eat or be eaten. The adoption is occurring in full force as a result of the fact that incentives are increasingly being extended to digital banking and are no longer supplied to match to banking practices. It is the opinion of the European Central Bank that any financial institutions or banks that do not make the transition or that do not adapt will not be successful in the business. Cannibalization is going to occur. At the end of this year, in November and December 2024, and in the third quarter of September and October of the next year, which is around the time that the bull cycle is at its apex, there are 2 more vital and crucial deadlines that the financial institutions need to satisfy. If you are unable to satisfy these deadlines, you will be eaten away by other people. Furthermore, XRP is a component of the system. It is expected that XRP will consume USDT, which is not a component of the system. In addition, steps are already being taken to get ready. As a result of Chad Stingapper's intervention, 3